Okay, Christina here to listen to some music, and today we are continuing on once again with our full album listening of Boston by Boston. This is the 5th track on the album, SMOKIN. So for those of you just jumping in on this adventure right now, we're more than halfway through. I record these full albums one track at a time with like 24 or 48 hours in between. This is the 3rd album on the channel so far. We've also done Dark Side of the Moon and Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. And I did put up a poll about Boston songs to listen to. And then I ended up deciding to go ahead and do the full album. But the top 3 places in the poll actually happened to be from this album. So I ended up using those first 3 place winners to decide what to release publicly. 3 of the tracks from this album by Boston will be released publicly. The others will be available for patrons on Patreon or for channel members here on YouTube. So I've really been digging this album. Can't wait to dive into this. And also, what are we diving into? I'm a professional classically trained musician, instrumentalist, vocalist, composer, and professor. So we dive into all of the different details that we possibly can in this music, how it's composed, the instruments. We look at the lyrics, and we also see why in the world are we drawn to this music, or maybe why not. So, without any further delay, let's listen. Okay, we are ready. Here comes track number 5. We're heading into some instrumental stuff. I know we are. Because I'm getting to know this band, so I'm starting to be able to see what they're going to do. I'm very excited to hear what's going to happen here. All right. The word that comes to mind with this one is classic. This seems just like a classic rock and roll jam. A little bluesy, a little southern rock maybe? I don't know. Smokin'. So I'm trying to catch as many lyrics as I can. So is the music on fire? Are the people on fire? You know, like we're so cool, we're hot, you know, just smoking. Okay. Something's just really cool. All right. I did hear something about a rock and roll band, which is interesting because the previous one was rock and roll band. I feel like, especially that one, but even a few others are sort of autobiographical. I feel like it really makes this album personal, even though at the same time it doesn't seem like it runs too deep. But it can if you want it to. So I'm already hearing the catchy hook. Da-da-da, smoking. Awesome. It just took right off with the energy. Really quick, upbeat tempo. We're just really having fun. And it is a new sound from them yet again. 5 for 5. All new things each time, even though they all sort of carry their own fingerprints. All right. Let's back up a little bit and get into this instrumental spot here. All right. A subito ending, a sudden ending. That was great. All right. All right, well, this one was a lot of fun. Safe to say it might be the most upbeat energy we've had on the album so far. And it had the makings of being a little ordinary, but not necessarily in a bad. It did not turn out in a bad way, but there's nothing wrong with being ordinary. There's nothing wrong with being okay. Just be okay. Because that's what makes it classic. So it was in those classic rock and roll roots, but then it went a little out of bounds in the middle. So with Foreplay Long Time, that was very proggy, and I feel like the middle section of this was also very proggy, and it was also neoclassical, which just means it takes a nod from the classical music era, but it's actually more neo-Baroque because the keyboard organ solo section, at one point it sort of morphed into a harpsichord and just went full on Baroque. That's the era that had Vivaldi and Bach. So we had two types of classic music, rock and roll, and classical in the Baroque style. Sounds good to me. It's those two flavors that come together that you would never expect, but when they come together, it's magic. Okay, I want to go back and just get one more quick snapshot of this classic sound. Let's see if I can find a good spot where it's just really full on here. Excellent. So to me, what makes this classic is, first of all, the drum beat. Chuck, chuck. It's just very steady, almost kind of plain. But plain isn't bad. It can mean that it's really strong. And the guitar sound was just a little bit different than what I've heard before. I'm starting to develop the ability to identify the guitar sound of Boston. And the sound here was just slightly different. I did hear it kind of come in and out. And then you hear that vocalist. I feel like he is singing in a live venue. And I'm just picturing people out on the dance floor dancing. Like he's in a bar with barbecue smoking and cooking in the back. And people smoking and cooking on the dance floor. And the instrumentalists, the band up on the stage. Everybody's on fire. Okay. It's really amazing how this song paints that picture. Actually, I do have to say, there was one interesting spot that I heard later on in the song. And I thought, that sounds like sirens. And I was like, well, would there be police sirens there? And then I realized, wait, it could be fire department, fire truck sirens. I don't know, maybe because somebody's on fire. So let's go back and find that. I don't think it was my imagination. Hope not. Well, it could be some other things. It sounded almost like firecrackers and whatever you feel like imagining it to be. I caught that. All right, so let's get into the middle part, the instrumental part. Because, like I was saying before, the beginning of the song is so classic that it could have been kind of not as interesting. But then they gave us this. Transition into it. Vocalist hands it off to the keyboard. It's not as loud. It's more subdued. And the guitars are in the background. We're used to the guitars being more soloists. I love those little trills. Da, 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 da. Okay. No problem, right? Pretty simple. Okay. They'll take us back into the opening material, right? Just like a simple A, B, A form. Oh, no, no, no. First, they give us this sparse, empty space, which has also been a theme that has gone through this album. The resonance and the space that just sits there confidently in their music. And so right now we just have bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum. What's up? What's happening? What's coming next? Well, this. Okay. So then, so what is this little section with like the harpsichord sound and the guitars going? I have not heard that before on this album. That might be the most delicate place in the album yet. Let's hear that harpsichord chord progression again. Let's go back and hear it again. Empty drums, empty drums. So something, something like that. Again, it's really quiet. The harpsichord sound is just really, it's just not as prominent as some other solo work in their music. And that's what I was also commenting on with the guitars, is the guitar work in this section was really just supportive accompaniment, even though the soloists are not really speaking that loud. And sometimes we can sort of think of Baroque music as a little bit more delicate, with all of its ornamentation and the smooth gestures. And so this fits in with that, plus the classic chord progressions, or at least usage of some classic chords. They mostly ran together pretty well. But then, what was the cool thing with the guitar behind the harpsichord? That's kind of fun. And so I know it's done more with a pick. That's not as easy to do on a violin, but I can use the bow for it. To me, that just sort of puts it even more into perspective with Baroque music, because I can picture the basso continuo, like the cellos and the basses, playing that line, supporting the harpsichord soloist. Yeah. Okay, and then coming out of that, we had some classic chords in the organ with an awesome suspension at the end. I have to hear that again. Right now. Organ. Big pipe organ in the church sound. Nice. Okay, we'll get to the suspension, but I have to point out the guitar work underneath. So we have the da-dum, bum, bum. So cool with the organ sound there. It really does sound like, I mean, I don't think it is, but it sounds like a big church pipe organ. And so usually the organist there would be using the foot pedals. And so the guitar is emulating that. Love it. And you can hear, so what I liked was this. This is one of those spots where you're like, this is why I like it. Right here. Listen to what the guitar's doing. So, that's what it does there. It's in these three notes. But then the next time it keeps going down. So listen. It could repeat that, but it doesn't. It goes down. And there. So it should have just started over with. But instead, it went down like that. And it should have gone down to this low E. But instead, I think it ran out of notes. And sometimes you have to bump it up an octave. So it went. And then. And instead of that E, it went. At least that's my guess as to why they jumped up the octave. It would have been cool to stay down there in the octave. But then, with the suspension that follows, I was already getting goosebumps from the bass line doing that and just the chord progressions in the organ itself. But let's hear where it goes. Excellent. So the suspension is on a D. To a C sharp. Okay, and then where did we go from here? From that lovely classical Baroque moment. We're at a party. Woo! That's a good transition. See, it's so delicate. They really push the boundaries with the dynamics and they keep some of ththose little solos like so fluttery in the distance. Okay, those little sound effects were really cool. I'm assuming that they're either actual sound effects recorded, kind of like in Rock and Roll Band. I believe they went out and recorded applause from a crowd at a concert. And so here, did they actually record sirens or fireworks or something? If not, they were able to kind of do funny things with the strings on the guitars and reproduce those things. So I know that Boston was not the traditional band in the sense they weren't completely up on the stage and, you know, like 4 or 5 people. And it was like 2 guys primarily, and they performed and produced their own music in their basement. And I think that's so awesome. And so I'm picturing them, like, when I hear those little sounds, I'm thinking, okay, one or both of them sat down in that basement and just like played around on those instruments until they started making all those funny sounds. Just must have had hours to do that. And like, yeah, let's put that in a song. Yeah, let's put that in the song. Okay. But also maybe somebody in there was also a classical music fan, because there are definite hints of this in here. Love it. Okay, did we wind up back with the lyrics again at the end? I was so taken by all the instrumental stuff. You all know, music first, lyrics second for me, for my brain. So let's hear a little bit how it ends. See, you just want to dance. Duet. Those high notes won't seem right. I love it. I love it. I could just picture that, like, in the basement recording this. Right? Awesome. Okay, can we hear the ending again? Mm-hmm. Let's skip ahead just a little bit. Take you away. Get down the line. Well, all right. Done. Okay, I love it. I love that ending. Just all right. Sometimes it's good to quit while you're ahead. Okay, that was track number 5, Smokin'. And boy, was it ever. It was really revving up a party here. People dancing, the band is playing, and I picture a barbecue somewhere on the premises, so getting some awesome food. And I said the word classic a lot because this song is classic in a whole bunch of different ways. Just the way this song started, I didn't think it was going to have as much flavor as it did, but then that middle section really spiced it up quite a bit. Smoking hot. All right, so we've got 3 more to go. I have no idea what to expect, except just maybe hearing those 2 concepts, the rock band stuff and then the more proggy stuff. So we'll just see how they want to balance this out. But for now, thanks for coming along with me on this adventure. It was a good one. And as always, just remember that you don't have to be perfect. Just be okay. And keep listening.